Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter, and I am a curator in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books, and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. I split my time with the Kislak Center and the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies. The Schoenberg Institute, or SIMS as we call it, is a research and development institute within the Kislak Center that's focused on manuscript studies, sort of broadly defined. A lot of my work is actually around digitization. We digitize most of our manuscripts, but we also have a physical collection at Penn. And usually what I'm doing at this time is I'm going into our stacks and pulling out a book, or maybe two or even three, to show off. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I've done it a couple times in the past, and it's really fun. I've taken a field trip. Not far. I just went across town, not even across town, it's a couple miles away, to the Free Library of Philadelphia, which is the public library in Philadelphia. I'm in the main, I don't think they call it that, the biggest branch. There are lots and lots of branches. Philadelphia is a big city, so there's lots of branches. But in the main branch, there is a really fantastic special collections, including a lot of medieval manuscripts, one of which is this one right here, Widener 7. So I'd love to say a whole lot about how this collection came to the Free Library and how the Free Library, got all these amazing manuscripts. Basically, it was donations from people who were in Philadelphia collecting. And so when mostly in the sort of late 19th, early 20th centuries. And so that's how this book came here. The binding is an 18th century binding, so it is not contemporary with the book, but it's very nice. I love this binding a lot. Widener 7 is a book of hours, which is probably, even if you don't know much about medieval manuscripts at all, books of hours are probably something you've heard about. So books of hours, they were incredibly popular in Western Europe, primarily, especially in France and England, a little bit in Spain and Italy. We have a lot of surviving ones from the north, also from sort of Flanders, and there we go. But they're prayer books that are kind of based on monastic texts, but we are brought into a secular being non-monastic context. So these were books that people had in their homes. These weren't books that were used at church. These were books that were used in their homes. But they reflect the canonical hours of the sort that monks and nuns would practice over the course of a day. So before I open it up, I put in markers here to sort of show the main textual divisions. And I want you to have a look at how this divides up. You'll see that there are some that are larger than others. This is the Hours of the Virgin. And the Hours of the Virgin is the main text in a book of hours. And that's why it's called a book of hours, because of Hours of the Virgin. The next one, you'll see there's sort of a larger one here. This is the Office of the Dead. And it's another text that is very frequently, usually found in books of hours. Not every book of hours is the same, but they tend to have the same texts and sometimes in the same order. It's actually, I've done research on the ordering of texts and the texts that appear in books of hours, and it's sort of interesting to see that. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. This book of hours, like most of them, begins with a calendar here. A calendar in the context of a book of hours are really medieval calendars in general. It serves as, I've heard it called the map of the church year. So what it does is here we have the month, and in this particular instance, every month gets 2 pages or 1 full leaf. And what we're doing is for each day of the month, we're listing a holiday or a saint or something that is sort of, let me put up here, that is celebrated on that day. So it's not like calendar, like my calendar at work is where I say I'm doing coffee with a Codex on Thursday, right? It's not that kind of calendar. It's a kind of calendar where you look and say, okay, who am I praying to today? What prayers am I saying today? If you look over on the left, there are numbers and letters, and these have been explained to me before, and honestly, I never remember from time to time, and it's something I should get to know better. But the canonical, there are numbers and letters that have to do with readings, what readings, biblical readings occur from year to year. So that is pretty interesting, the way that they organized that. The advertised reason that I wanted to show off this book, though, is because of these little dragons. They're odd little dragons. They are almost like little plants or little flowers that are growing at the top, but they're definitely in the shape of dragons, and they are all over the place. So here's one up here. There's also a little, I think this is probably a dragon head down there, but they appear, they're not on every page, but they're on enough pages that it's sort of, when I think of Widener 7, I think of it as the dragon manuscript. So there's also a lot of gold. I hope you can see, when I move the pages, you can see that gold shining. It is a really sumptuous, beautifully illuminated manuscript. Let's see, there we go. So here we have two dragons. So we've got one over here and one up here. They're not the same. They're distinctive little guys. But keep your eye out as we go through for that. So that's the end of the calendar. And then we come to the, let me see, I have this all here. It's not directly into the hours. It opens up with gospel lessons. So that's what's happening here. We have a few gospel lessons, and that's just a few pages, but still really beautifully there. And there's a dragon. And then after the gospel lessons, that's where we come to the hours of the Virgin. Now, usually at the opening of the hours of the Virgin, you expect to see a big illumination or a miniature with the nativity. So you're going to expect to see like Mary and baby Jesus. It's all about Mary. And there's nothing there. And in fact, the text starts in the middle of a sentence. That's because somebody cut this miniature out. Don't worry, we're going to see some of these as we move forward. But this manuscript is incomplete because somebody did come through and cut them out. It's not an unusual thing to see. And so what the hours of the Virgin is, like the canonical hours, it goes through the day in terms of which prayers you're saying at what time. So you'll have matins and sext and, compline at the end of the day. So they reflect the canonical hours in that way. I'm just going to page through so you can get a sense of how this looks. I'll point out if you see little words at the bottom of the back of a page, or the verso, as we call it, the recto and the verso, that's going to be a catchword, which is the first word of the next leaf. What this is showing us is that this is the end of a choir. A choir or a gathering is one set of sheets that has been folded into a booklet and then sewn together. And this helps the binder know in what order to bind these together. It also helps us because if I look at this and I see, oh, this catchword doesn't match what's on the next page, I know that something's missing or something's been sometimes bound in the wrong order is another thing that happens. In this case, it's the same. It's oculos. This is shortened a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Or maybe it's not. Actually. All right, let's keep going. I guess I do. Oh, some of the dragons have these little bulbous heads that really do look like little flowers. I don't know if any of you have ever seen something like that. I haven't. before. Another thing that I like about the dragons in particular is the sort of orange. It's a very distinctive orange color to the ink that was used to color them. That one looks very flowery, and it looks like there's been a little bit of maybe water damage at the top. Come on, let's find a miniature. I mean, honestly, I'm not sad just paging through. And the parchment is really very nicely prepared. It's really soft and smooth. I'm pretty sure it's cow or calf, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm also seeing something interesting here. I'm going to zoom in and see if you can see it too. What I'm seeing is these little lines in the parchment are veins. These are the veins of the animal. So sometimes you don't see that a lot. Usually you see hair follicles, and I'm not seeing hair follicles, like little dots on the parchment. But that's quite interesting. Come on. Oh, nice. Oh, here we go. All right. So here is a miniature. Let's see, this is 45. So this is going to be the visitation. So this is Anne, I think, visiting Mary. And so this is the kind of miniature that would have been in, you know, at the start with this really fancy, I mean, all of it is quite fancy, but the decoration is even more so here with the illuminated initial and the illustration in there. The background is really neat. Like this has been, let me zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. But you know, somebody worked really hard to get that background, and the colors are so vibrant. You know, I think a lot of people don't think about the Middle Ages as being really vibrant, but look at this, like this pink is it's a very sort of modern color almost, and more of this orange, really bright and vibrant orange color. All right, so this is the, oh, let me put that back. Yeah, we put this in to keep the ink from imprinting on the opposite page. Although that could be a really helpful way to sort of see, you know, if there are leaves missing, sometimes you'll get an imprint and that can be helpful, but you probably won't there. So here's another one. I like this. I like the way Mary, she just looks very relaxed, you know, and again, the blue and the orange, and yeah, it's really something else. Okay. On through the Hours of the Virgin, which, as I said, it's really the main text of the Book of Hours, and it's almost half the book. Actually, it's maybe more than half the book. We're at 116, so it's 115 out of maybe some 300 pages. All right, so what's next? On 116, we have the Hours of the Cross. So the Hours of the Virgin is one set of canonical hours, and then there are several other hours that could also be included. Hours just meaning, you know, sort of sets of prayers. So this one has the Hours of the Cross, and then it has the Hours of the Holy Spirit. And I think there are a few others. Oh, those are masses. So Hours of the Holy Spirit, Hours of the Holy Cross, other ones. So which you can expect to see. Again, look at these colors, that orange. Every time it comes up, I notice it. All right. And if you have questions as we go through, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them as I can. So, oh, here's another example of, so this is the start of the Hours of the Holy Spirit. We have, in this case, we have a catchword, which is Domine Labia. But up here we have Fuit Obumbrata. right? So clearly the catchword doesn't match. And also we'd expect to see a miniature, and that's not here. So here's another place where a leaf has been either cut out or maybe taken out. Since this is a later binding, it's possible that it was removed at the time the binding was replaced. It's sort of hard to say, except that I don't see any kind of stub down here. You think if you're cutting a page out of a book, you'd expect to see some kind of remnant of the page, and it's not there, which might mean it was done when the book was rebound. It's not good either way. This is not how you're supposed to treat your books at all. All right, so now we come to the next sort of main section of this book of hours, and again, most book of hours. This is the Office of the Dead. So the Office of the Dead, it's not like a funeral service. It is prayers for the dead, for people who have died, for saints, and for, I think, praying for people to go through purgatory, and also praying for yourself, because in the Middle Ages, everybody, there was a lot more death. I mean, not more death, because everybody still dies. Sort of an acknowledgement of death. There was death a lot. And so it makes sense that they would have sort of a special Hours of the Dead. And I love the Hours of the Dead in general because, well, I find it very interesting, the topic of it. I'm a little goth, maybe, I don't know. But there's always a miniature at the start that involves either a burial or a funeral. And so in this one, there's no dead body. Often you'll have, somebody will be carrying, usually wrapped, a body, but clearly a body that's been like wrapped in sheets or a shroud. But here they're all dressed in black, a lot of black and candles, and they're praying for the dead. So it's a really distinctive image that you see a lot. Yeah, more dragons. I'm also noticing that the dragons, they often have not fire coming out of their mouths, but flowers, which is sort of an interesting take on that. I kind of love the idea of dragons that spit flowers instead of fire. Be a little more friendly. These are pretty friendly dragons, I think. All right, we have a question. Could it have originated from the Egyptian Book of the Dead? I assume you're asking about the Hours of the Dead. I kind of doubt it. I think it's more likely just because you have cultures that are sort of dealing with death, and so this is how you're dealing with death. But I don't know if anybody has looked at comparing the Office of the Dead with the Book of the Dead. That might be an interesting thing to do, because I don't actually know, but I guess. All right, so we're working through Book of the Dead. This one has been I think that's been purposefully marked out, and it's blue. It was blue. The head was blue. If you look, it was really clearly blue. So I don't know if somebody got mad because there was a blue-headed dragon, because I think all the other ones have had those orange heads, which is sort of interesting. All right, keeping going. I'm sorry, I can't open it super wide because the binding is pretty tight. But I hope that you can see well enough, at least on this side. And when I'm done, we can go back. Oh, this is a good question. So, and I was noticing this too. Shreve Simpson says, hello from Madrid. I wish I was in Madrid. I'm so jealous of you. The leaves in the vine scroll illumination, is it gold, 2 shades, and silver? So I think it's all gold. I think it's just the light in here is making it look a little bit silver. And the reason that I think, another reason that I'm pretty sure it's all gold and not silver is because silver, just like silverware, and silver, you know, if you have silverware, or, you know, your grandmother's, at least my, you know, my grandma, she had a lot of silver, it would tarnish and turn black. And so usually if I see, I've never actually seen silver in a book like this. It's always black. It's always turned black. So I think it does look silver even here a little bit, but it's gold. It's all gold. Gold on every page. So this is a really sumptuous manuscript. And somebody really was into dragons. I think I want to do a project where I get every single dragon out and do something with them. Because I'm so intrigued by them. Let's see. And then here towards the end, again, this is pretty typical for books of hours. We're going to get a lot of little texts, one after the other. So this is a prayer called O Intimorata, so called for the first letter of it. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Shreve says on my screen, many of the leaves look black. So oxidized silver. I'm not seeing any black. I see gold here. So these are gold. These are blue. And then these are orange red. So I don't know, maybe the blue ones are looking black. But they're blue. They're not black. So O Intimorata is a prayer that you see a lot in books of hours, and it's usually paired with another prayer, which is going to come up. Obsecrote. So here we have obsecrote, and they always come one after the other. I don't think I've ever seen a book of hours that has one without the other, unless it's something's been cut out. So those are those two prayers. And then 192. And then we have the suffrages. So pages and pages, these are just little prayers. Actually, let me see. Right. A prayer, so prayers specifically asking for help. So praying for assistance. So this one looks really silver to me, but I think it's gold. So suffrages are also it's a sort of a canonical set of prayers that you see a lot in books of hours, because you're praying and asking for assistance. So I'm not sure why they're called suffrages. After the suffrages, so it's just every page is just gorgeous. I love this manuscript so much. So after the suffrages, we have right, a set of 3 masses. Masses being the Eucharist, you know, prayers said around the Eucharist. So masses of the Holy Spirit, Virgin, Trinity, and Dead, and they're all together. I didn't mark them separately. They're all together here. And they're all introduced. Each one is introduced with one of these beautiful illuminated initials. And as always, we have our little dragon friends up in the margins, coming in to be a little bit of decoration here. Very fine. You can see, there we go. There we go. A little bit of that shine. All right, so Anne asks, these were in homes. What kinds of homes? Rich, educated? Yes, rich for sure. So I think that books of hours really started to be popular with the sort of rise of the proto-middle class sort of market, you know, people making money off of selling things, basically. And so, and also with, well, no, before I was going to say with sort of the growing extraction of you know, money from other places to make enriching oneself. And so then you have money to buy beautiful things. And also the Catholic Church was very powerful. And so one way to, you know, show that you are an important person is to, you know, have a beautiful religious book that you can even, so this is rather large, so this probably wouldn't be carried around. So you do find books of hours that are quite small. You would actually were carried around, and so people would have them as sort of, you know, I'm sure that they were actually religious and they did pray and that kind of thing, but also some of them, it's clear that there's also a, you know, you had to care a lot to pay this much, but yeah. Yes, let's see. Oh, there's a lot of chat happening. Katie says suffrage comes from the Latin words suffragium, which means support. In this type of prayer, we ask the Lord to give us his support. That makes a lot of sense. And then Tess follows up with the etymology for suffrage from Merriam-Webster. Let's see, vote, selection, aid, support, intercessory prayer. Yeah, that'll make sense. All right, and then Lynn has a question. The initials look as though they are richly decorated. Can you say something about them? Yeah, so these initials, it's like this one here, we call them illuminated initials. There are different types of illuminated initials. So if it's just a letter that sort of is highly decorated, that's illuminated. Illuminated because of the gold. That's covered it. You also have historiated initials, which are initials that tell a story. So if you have like, here's a saint praying, a specific saint praying, that's a historiated initial. A zoomorphic initial would be initial that's shaped like an animal. And then inhabited initials just have people and you don't know who they are. So I've tried doing an illuminated initial. It didn't turn out very well. Because you have to do the outline and then outline the decoration. You have to paint any color that you want to have on there. And then the gold, which is the hardest part, because to do gold, sometimes you have gold paint. So just paint made out of gold, that's pretty simple. It would be like painting any other color. But this is gold leaf. Gold leaf is gold that has been hammered very, very thin, like really thin, like thinner than aluminum foil. It kind of falls apart in your finger, so you have to be very careful with it. And what you do is you have a kind of glue, a very thin glue that you put on any part where you want to have the gold stick, and then you put the gold leaf down, and then you rub, not with your finger, but you have a tool to sort of rub it to make it sort of shiny and stick. And then you do layers of that. And that is really, you have, you know, I am not a person who is really into the like nitty gritty of things. I'm a big picture person. I found it to be very difficult, but some people do an amazing job, and like all of this is gold leaf. So somebody or some people spent an enormous amount of time in this manuscript to to put down all this gold leaf? So thanks for the great question. And here, like, oh, on the, zoom out again, or come over here. So this is all gold leaf too on the back, these little squares. So just incredible amount of work. Okay, Karen is yes, the gesso goes first, then the gold, then the painting, then the outline. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking the outline just in terms of having to know where everything goes in the thing. So I would presume they would have like at least like a pencil outline to go, but maybe not. All right, and then this is the end. There's just some more prayers. Most of this is in Latin, a little bit is in French. I think this last prayer is in French. And actually the calendar was in French too. I didn't know. Silver point for outlines. Thank you, Karen. All right, we're over time, but I could talk about this manuscript I could have taken a lot longer to go through this with you, but thank you so much. I want to thank the Free Library of Philadelphia for giving me the space and letting me come and like play with my favorite manuscript from them with the little dragons in it. So I hope that this was fun for you, and I hope you'll be back again in the future every Thursday at noon, and you already have the link and password, so you're welcome to come back. And I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you again soon.